Hey everybody,
Hey guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's great to be back with you guys for the first stream of 2019. I'm back also doing the live stream, so it's great to be able to speak with everybody today. We've got a few messages for you today actually, and the first one is that we really wanted to thank everybody for a really amazing 2018 that we've had.
You guys did great in 2018. We saw your amazing work, your amazing effort, and from the bottom of our hearts, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's so cool to come into work every day and to see all your creativity and all the stuff that you guys are working on. It's awesome. So first things first, we wanted to thank you guys. And also, you know, start off the new year right. 2019, new year. And we actually have, for this first live stream, a little special thing. It's a new process, some new ideas on how you guys can make better games. And these ideas come from our own personal experience working with you guys. It comes from our own experience with our internal studios. And we're really excited to share everything with you today to start off the new year right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got a small presentation we can show you.
Yeah.
So you should be seeing it right about now.
There we go.
So the presentation that we wanted to show you guys and share with you is smart prototyping in 2019. So essentially, why do we want to see this new form of prototyping? Well, essentially, we've noticed that fast prototyping, which we've really encouraged you guys to adopt in 2017 and 2018 when you joined us then, has yielded results. But today, it's not good enough for what the market expects.
Exactly. You know, as Corentin says, we can work, in fast prototyping, we can work with different processes, but what we have to make sure in our role is to make sure that you guys have all the best tools to make the best games at this moment. And the reason why we like to explain to you how to maybe change your way of working is because the market has changed.
And really the best way to see that is comparing, yes, the hyper-casual market has changed, and the best way to see that is really comparing the top 10 charts today compared to the top 10 charts a year ago.
Exactly. And you'll see like the difference is absolutely huge in the kind of games that are in the top charts now compared to a year ago. So a year ago, some great games, Dune, Snake vs. Blocks, Stack Jump, all great games that we were lucky enough to publish. But you'll notice two major things about these games. Most of all, first things first, all of these, or most of these games that were in the top 1 year ago were 2D games. And the second thing is that they were very simple games. So if you want to publish a game, like let's say Flappy Dunk, again today, you're probably not going to get 55% on day one retention and a low CPI.
Highly unlikely.
Highly unlikely. Whereas we did get those results about a year and a half ago when we published the game. And that's because the market has changed.
And which is normal, we've gotten people used to a certain type of games, but expectations evolve and the market is evolving and is maturing.
Absolutely.
People are demanding deeper and deeper experiences from the game. So back a year ago, the games, as Thomas said, they stayed at the surface of the gameplay.
Very shallow.
And if you compare that to today, if you look at games like Crowd City or Paper 2, those offer a much deeper experience, much more immersive to the players. And that's really the kind of game that you guys have to build to succeed in today's environment.
Yeah, exactly. And when Corentin says a more like deeper gameplay, that's exactly it, is that you can pick up the game and play one way in a safe, simple way. A good example is like Helix Jump, you just bounce one platform to the next, but you have all these other different options. You can learn to master the game, to get better at it, and this is the way that we really encourage you to work, because this is going to yield much better retention results, and these are going to be more interesting visually as well.
So the key point here is that you really have to create deeper experiences for your players. So we've used the examples of Zelda and Amazing Spider-Man. They're great games, by the way, you should check them out. Obviously, we're not asking you guys to make these games on mobile, but maybe in 2-3 years' time, hopefully we'll get to that point.
There'll be a port of Zelda in a couple of years.
For sure. But you get our point. We're exaggerating voluntarily. The key takeaway is offering people a much deeper experience in the game. And that's really what you guys need to aim for in today's environment. So how do you actually achieve that?
Absolutely.
Well, you have to ask yourself a very basic question, but is the gameplay fun?
Yeah, and is the gameplay fun is actually means quite a few different things. First of all, when you pick up the game, are you excited that you're going to play it? Do you think you're going to want to play it the next day? Obviously, that's hard to do when we're talking about your own games that you've made, but you need to take a step back and think about these games with more, be more objective about what you're creating. And is the gameplay fun also means, is it fun now for today's market? Because I think everybody here thinks that Flappy Dunk is a fun game, but as we said, it's not going to work in today's market. So is it fun? Is the gameplay fun? Is the core concept interesting and replayable in today's market, and does it bring reward for the player?
And the issue with fast prototyping is that when you're in a mindset where you're prototyping like 10 ideas in parallel and at the same time, and you're all focused on dishing out prototypes and getting them on our dashboard to test, you're not taking enough time, you're not taking the steps back to really think, to pause and think about this very core and basic question is the gameplay fun? Fast prototyping had its virtues, it worked well when it did work, but today, in today's market, well, you have to come back to almost basics and ask yourself, is this fun? And fast prototyping essentially doesn't work with that approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fast prototyping thing also means that you get stuck in a loop of making game after game after game, which is great. It's absolutely what you should do. You should be making a lot of different games and trying a lot of different things. But let's say you find a concept which is cool. You see a game on the App Store. You say, okay, this is a good concept. I want to take inspiration from it and make it something different. When you do that, don't start development right away. You can take a few days, even physically draw out your game on paper, see all the different scenes that you want to make, and what that's going to do is it's going to help you understand the limits of your idea. Because so many games seem really awesome when you think about them in your head, but then when you draw out the scene, you're like, oh, but that's going to be an issue, or the obstacles are going to be too much in the way, or there's not going to be enough reward for the player, and I'm not going to be able to find the depth in the gameplay. And taking a bit more time to conceptualize the gameplay, draw it out, think about it, speak about it with your friends and your colleagues, that's going to help you then start development knowing exactly where you want to go and with a better experience. One thing that we've discovered is really, really effective actually to help you doing this, especially if you're working like alone. There is no better proof of if your gameplay is fun or not than actually just going on the street, giving your phone to like 5 random people and saying, okay, what do you think about this? And when you do that, listen to what they say, but also look at how they play, Is their finger on the object that they're supposed to control? Do they understand the gameplay in like under 2 seconds, All this information you have to understand. You have to get into people's heads to make that game. And to do that, which you are all capable of, no doubt, but to do that, you just need to take a step back and really think about what you're going to do as a game.
Yeah. And we've got a little case study right now for you guys to really show you what slower and smarter prototyping for 2019 can look like. So the example we're going to use is essentially the story of Crowd City. So big shout out to our team in Montpellier. The guys down there have done an amazing job. They're the ones who are also behind Paper 1 and 2 and Hold.io, and also behind Crowd City. And I think this is a really good example of a really good showcase of what slow and smarter prototyping can look like. So essentially, Crowd City at the very, very start was, the idea at the very start was a minesweeper. So the team wanted to revisit this old PC classic and wanted to make it into a multiplayer game. And that's what they started off with. However, they realized that, well, actually, the gameplay in itself is quite bad. It's not actually fun. It's too System 2.
Yeah,
There's not much going on. It's very slow.
Minesweeper is not like the most dynamic and interesting game or snackable game you can imagine, so they had to try and find a way around that.
Exactly. But what they did notice is that the really, really fun part was opening the territories. When you click on a good part of the map, you sort of widen it up and you explore new space. And it was that part of the gameplay of Minesweeper that they really wanted to keep and dig around. So at that step of the process, they asked themselves, what is actually fun? What's an actually fun feeling? And that was the only one fun feeling that they noticed from the game. So that's the one they continue working on. And on the second iteration of Minesweeper, the idea from the team was that they should try and create a crowd of minions running through a maze.
Yeah, because basically just to kind of go a bit deeper in that, what they discovered is that when you open up bits of the minefield, you open up kind of a path, but you don't really know where it's going to take you next. And so they made a little toy where you could like open up different areas of the map, and some of them had bombs, some of them had bonuses, and you would just have to get a character from one point of the map to the other point. And as Corentin said, what was really exciting in that wasn't opening up the map, because that's, you know, you have to think about it, it's boring. What was exciting is to get that little group of characters from one point to the other. So they started out with like Minesweeper and ended up with controlling a crowd, you know, of people through corridors. So obviously there's a big leap between those two concepts. But if you really follow through, like where the thought process leads you, and asking yourself, is it fun, is it fun, is it fun at every step, it can lead you to something much better, and that's very, very different.
Absolutely. So they thought it was still not good enough, but again, they wanted to focus on leading a crowd through corridors. The team then took a few steps back and had a brainstorm as to what kind of mechanic works well with the crowd. So they thought about drawing obstacles so that the crowd would sort of avoid the obstacles, and then they also thought about drawing the crowd itself to a certain goal. And in the end, they came up with the .io version of the game, which led to Crowd City.
Exactly, yeah. And you know, we tested it. Stats were amazing, and we published it with like only small iterations to improve slightly the stats. So really, this process, you know, can be done by any one of you on any game at any time. We really, really believe that, you know, you all have the capacity to do this. You just need to take a bit of a step back.
Yeah, take a few steps back and be rigorously ask yourselves at each step of the process, is this fun enough? And also, is this ambitious enough to replace one of the current top 10 games out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely another question that you can ask yourself. It's when you're playing your game or you're giving your game to somebody on the street, your goal and our goal is to make together a game that will be a top 10 game, even a top 1 game every time. Obviously, that doesn't always work out because the market, you know, is competitive, but it's possible at every, you know, with every idea. So when you're making your prototype, you know, play 3 or 4 ultra casual top games that are in the top 10. And once you have done that, play your prototype and think, okay, can my game replace one of these games in the top 10? If you genuinely think that the answer is yes, then that's awesome. We go to test, we're super happy, you know, we really believe in you on that point. If you don't think that it is, then you definitely need to think about it a little more and to improve something, polish something, change something so that it can be a top 10 gameplay.
So the takeaway, guys, is for 2019, we would love it if you could adopt a slower prototyping, but also a much smarter prototyping for all your ideas. And that's it for the presentation. I think we can now move on to a Q&A session.
Just one thing briefly, I think before we do that, it's information on the CPIs at the moment.
Yes, yeah.
So as you may have all seen, the people who are...
just 1 second.
Yeah, sorry. For the people who have testing games at the moment, CPIs are quite high at the moment. So this is due to a couple of things. The first thing is that it's still, you know, the New Year's and Christmas period, which means that we are still getting high CPIs from that. The second thing is that we're switching over to a new Facebook account for the New Year's to kind of have a better workflow on our end. And that means that we have slightly higher CPIs for the moment. We do, you know, definitely just be patient about that, and we'll be able to have it fixed really soon so we can get some realistic data out and it'll be fine.
Yeah, it should all be good.
So the data should be representative in any case, but if ever you were worried that you were, you know, getting higher than usual, don't worry, it's very temporary and it will be fixed very soon.
Yeah. Sorry about this little lull. We're just waiting. We haven't done this in a while, guys. It's the holidays. We're quite fresh from the holidays. So we're just waiting for a laptop to arrive.
So in the meantime, Corentin, how was your New Year's?
Oh man, you don't want to go there. No, my New Year's was good. Family time, friends time, and yeah. How about yours?
Yeah, it was awesome. I was at the mountains with some snow. Friends time. It was really nice. Ah, beautiful. We've got all the questions.
My laptop.
You got the link?
I should have the link. I should be on it. Okay.
Beautiful. Okay. Nice to meet you guys all again.
Is the retention dashboard accurate? Yeah, so first question from Sachin Hosmani. Hey man, nice to meet you, welcome on board. So the question is the retention on the dashboard accurate? it is actually not the same as in game analytics and Facebook analytics. No, it is not accurate at the moment. We have a team of developers who are working really hard to try and fix that and make it as accurate as possible, so that you don't have to go digging into any other platform to check the accuracy of your data. I can't tell you when exactly that will be finalized and polished. Hopefully within the next month or so, we should have something very, very solid, which you guys and also we can use at the same time as you. So please bear with us for the time being.
Yeah. Should we focus on 3D development or 2D? Absolutely 3D development at the moment. It's what's popular. And just a quick note, thanks Irina and Dimitri for the comment on my shirt. It was sent to us by Game Analytics.
Sponsored by Game Analytics?
Sponsored by Game Analytics, yeah.
Game Analytics. Looking for questions?
Yeah. Sorry, just quickly going. Why are we
Okay, so
yeah.
Question from Faith Studio. Why do we need to remove all the ads when going through the prototyping iteration or prototyping phase? The reason you want to remove ads from your prototypes is because in the prototyping phase, we want to test the game without any ads so that we get the data on the game as it is, like the pure game in itself, its pure potential. If you have ads incorporated into the game, well, two problems. Firstly, it will take you guys more time to integrate. And secondly, and more importantly, you won't be able to see the true potential of the game with the ads, because ads will negatively affect, most of the time, retention on your game.
Yeah, absolutely. Also a question from Blaj, I'm sorry maybe for the pronunciation. Quick question, will you remove any Voodoo's videos that still advocate quick prototypes then, like the skeleton method? Is this still relevant?
Good question.
Very good question. We actually spoke about this just before the stream. Yes, we will be making sure that all of the content on the dashboard is for you guys is coherent. And we will be updating, maybe not removing, but updating the content that we have to make sure that it reflects what we think is the best prototyping practice today.
Quick question from Kismail. Will the slides be made available? Well, we're going to share this live stream. It will be on the dashboard, so you have this Q&A and obviously the presentation from that we just did before with Thomas.
Yeah. Quick question also from Company of Dudes. Hi, why does the manager not communicate after loading the video on the dashboard? So definitely that's also one of our big, projects for the year, is to make sure that the communication can be improved, at all the steps of the process. We're really working very hard every day to make sure that we can communicate with as many people as possible. We're really making an effort so that you guys get all the best information, and we're building every day towards, better content and better communication for you guys. So, I'm not asking you guys to be patient, but you'll see there's going to be some cool stuff in the first, 6 months of the year. There's going to
definitely. First half of the year, a lot of stuff is going to be happening. We're looking at a number of projects that some ideas actually came from you guys, and thanks a lot for those. So we're looking into building maybe a community for you guys. And we're really taking our time to make sure that what we're offering you really brings value and helps you making a hit game. What we're also looking into is, and actually that's already started on our end, we're going to start to have a more customer support, so that all the questions that you guys have and all the issues you guys encounter with our dashboards, with integrating SDKs, or any questions you guys have about the testing phase, we have a proper team that really takes care and caters to all your questions and all your needs, and can really clarify any doubts you guys would have about that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, just a quick note on Ad Reality Limited. If I submit an iOS version to Voodoo, is it okay to submit an Android version to an alternative publisher? It's difficult if it's the same game. Obviously, if we're going to work on, do some user acquisition for your game and think about possible feedback for it, then it's very difficult for us to, have another publisher have a look at it at that time. Normally you'll get a quick kind of evaluation of the potential of the game from us, and at that point, if we do get in contact and tell you to keep on working on it, then we can stick together. If we tell you that unfortunately, which can happen, we're not interested in publishing it, then definitely you can send it to another publisher once we've tested. iOS or Android, it's the same. A very recurring question actually I see is that how long would we recommend that you guys spend on each prototype with the slower and smarter prototyping? It's not so much about a specific amount of time. If you need an extra week because you've got a new concept, that's fine. Just to give you a bit of a benchmark, yeah, anything from 2 weeks if the game is easy to make, to 3 weeks if it's like a really complex technical issue, still counts as pretty fast prototyping. You know, it's not because you can make it in a week that you should. That's all we're saying. You know, you should just take a bit more time to think about it and to make sure that you have the best version of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need to have arbitrary time limits, as in 3 weeks and that's it, I'm done. For Crowd City, it took, correct me if I'm wrong, but it took around a bit more than a month to do Crowd City.
Like the whole process, yeah. They worked on other games in the meantime, but the whole process took about a month. Yeah.
So you don't have to have, obviously, like 3 months on one idea is obviously too much and overkill. But there's a sweet spot somewhere in the middle between 1 week and 3 months. And if you think you can still bring an idea to the next level, bring it further, or twist it in a more innovative way and still focusing on that core question, is this fun? And bring it to the next level, then sure, continue doing it, regardless of the time you spend on it. But if you really feel that you're spending too much time on an idea and you really are stuck, then put it on the side for now and move on to the next idea.
Yeah. A quick question from Tuts. Hey, good to see you again. Why don't we put subcategories when submitting our apps? The reason why is that because if you do put subcategories, they become much easier to spot by other studios and other publishers, and therefore you risk having your game copied a lot more. So putting them just in the general category means that you make sure that they're protected or as protected as can be from being copied.
Right. One question from Kismail. Can we see results of other dev prototypes? I think it'd help a lot in guiding what to build next. We've thought about that internally. So not showing you directly, so person A did this game and person B did this game, use those as inspiration, because that wouldn't be fair to those other developers. So we want to keep some level of confidentiality between what each developer creates. It's only fair. However, the point I think you are getting at is you think it would be useful for you to see previous examples of previous gameplays that have not worked or failed, so that you can avoid making them again. That's a very, very fair point. And I think we're thinking internally with the team about sort of big categories of gameplays that have been tested in XYZ way, and show you and use these as counterexamples of gameplays that do not work.
Yeah.
That's something we can definitely do for you guys, but we'll think about that internally.
Yeah, for sure, and that can be big categories of gameplay, or just it's a good point also about homemade games on this. Just ask a question on it. Yes, we can make case studies, and we will make more case studies, both on games that have been a success and games that have not been a success, and explaining the reasons why.
That'd be quite fun, so saying why something was completely failed. And I mean, we haven't done any
not yet, because we've been focusing on trying to give the qualitative information on why something works. But I think that it's a fair point. We'll talk about it, and
you can learn from a positive, but you can very well learn from a negative. Yeah, it's a very, very, very good point.
It's a very good point, and I think it will be very useful for everybody to understand kind of the mistakes that you can avoid. Hey, Sport Productions. The video will be on the web, on the dashboard. You can check it out later.
There was a question from Vladimir Anshuk. Hey man, what about the newsletter in 2019? We're thinking also about kicking that off again. We'll see. We're still wondering whether, if it really brings any value to you guys compared to live streams and compared to all the other content that we create on the dashboard. So if we get an overwhelming amount of people saying, with concrete examples of, yes, this really, really helps me, then why not? But for now, we're really focusing on creating content for you guys that actually helps you. So case studies, for example, taking time to preparing and doing the live streams for you guys. We think this has a much bigger impact than, say, a newsletter. Newsletters are nice to have, but it's not like a fundamental advantage for you guys, we think at least. Yeah,
we'll continue the live streams and generating more content, and definitely, we'll evaluate if you guys really want the newsletters. Okay, so there's a lot of really different, interesting questions here, so we'll try and go through them really quickly. Just a general point that comes from a question from Mob Doggo Games. Mob Doggo. Is it still okay to have gun and fire on games like Mr. Gun? So this is more linked to what does it mean to be mass market, right? Having a gun on a game can be okay, but do you really think that you're going to get 50% of women in your game if you put some guns in it? We see from our tests that that's not the case. We're not saying it's impossible to make a good game with a gun. What we're saying is that if you really
Flip the gun from
flip the gun, for instance, quite popular. What we're saying is that if you really want a game to be mass market, you should find another object than a gun to serve the same purpose. And just sorry, real quick, another question that we had, which was interesting, was about when we talk about deeper gameplay, we're not necessarily talking about more complex interactions for the user with the game. It's not about adding buttons or different controls, although if you can find an innovative way of controlling, that's really interesting.
The mechanics are always very simple.
Yeah, exactly. It's about creating a bit of variety in the experience, and that takes a bit more thought and a bit more time to develop, but we're not talking about making a AA game or about making Guns of Glory or something like that. We're still talking in the ultra casual genre. What we're saying is just that to be more successful now in 2019, you guys need to take a bit of a step back and to think a bit more in depth about what you're making, and not be, like, your priority should not be to push the game out as soon as possible. It should be to push out the best version of the game. It's still ultra casual games. It's still simple controls. It's still all of the guidelines that we have on snackable, YouTubeable, etc. It's just a question of priority when you're developing the game, and that's really, really super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
I saw another question that might be interesting. Actually.
Yeah, go on.
Sorry again. It's a question actually from Nathan Melville. So thanks for asking that. It's in French. So I'm going to on the chat, so I can translate it for you guys. It's basically about how to create progression in the games that you're making. So Nathan was asking, should you guys keep adding more difficult obstacles and elongating the level length, etc., or does this new process change anything? So again, like the previous answer, no, it doesn't really change anything. The only difference is that now, if you think that a bit more variety in the obstacles is better, then you can add that. But the general concept of building blocks, where you scale the difficulty by adding more and more difficult blocks to longer and longer levels, that still stays very much the same.
Yeah. I had a question from Michael Kachatrian. Hey man. So the question is, if a game has a very low CPI, does that mean its retention can be really high and we just need to find the proper gameplay for that mechanic? Yes, so if you have a very low CPI, so I don't know, it's below, say you got 10 cents CPI, that's amazing. In that case, what that means is, what that tells us is that people watching your gameplay really, really want to play it. Either because they find it super sexy, super trending, or they're just really, really curious and they're hooked by the gameplay visually and want to play it. That means that we have a big opportunity here to build something really, really good. So if the retention isn't there yet, then obviously something is wrong with the core gameplay mechanic, and that's something you have to work around. Bearing in mind that you have a low CPI, you don't want to change the visuals or the core gameplay that people initially saw on Facebook during the campaign, but you really have to add a much more deeper gameplay to increase your retention.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm just checking.
So another question from Kismail. I feel like it's the second or third question I get from you, man. So the question from Kismail is, with higher quality standards, even during prototyping, time from concept to validation increases. This puts more risk and cost on developers.
Well, it's a good question, but we're not exactly. Yeah, sorry. We're not exactly sure that's true. Simply because there can be a lot of risk if you just make a lot of prototypes without really thinking about them. Because in today's market, you could be just making stuff that's not adapted, and in that case, that's a huge risk as well in terms of development time, concept time to development time.
So the finishing line, the aim is for you, just as it is for us, is really to make a hit game and for it to reach top 10, top 5, top 1, really. And whether you take your time to, however you spend your time, whether it's doing fast prototyping or slow and smarter prototyping, the end game, the finishing line stays the same. the purpose of our presentation was to recommend that you guys adopt this new mindset in order to get to that finishing line much quicker, and you have a much higher chance to reach that finishing line. So we really think that with this new approach, you'll have much better chances of doing that compared to last year where we were recommending doing a fast prototyping approach.
Okay. I think that's all we have time for.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining.
Thanks for all your questions. I saw a lot of comments saying that more live streams. So definitely we'll be starting again from now. This is the first of a long list of live streams in 2019. We were joking about Corentin, looking forward to the time where we get to like the 400th live stream for the publishing team. So we'll get to there one day. Again, we really wanted to thank all of you guys for all the efforts and the great games that you showed us in 2018, and hoping they'll continue in the new year. We know
you guys are the reason we come into work, and I think we love our job, and it's amazing to see all the work that you guys put into it, all the energy, seeing you guys chat with us directly during the live streams. It's really cool, and it really encourages me to like go further and work even harder with you guys to create excellent results.
Yeah, and we know that it can be a frustrating experience sometimes, making a lot of games and not being able to get one out. I saw a few comments about being sad to see that the game's not working, or being frustrated at that. We do understand that frustration as we also try out ourselves like many games, and only and a lot of concepts don't work out. We just really encourage you to stay motivated, stay demanding of you guys, and also of us. And we're pretty sure that it's going to be a crazy year for everybody.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
we'll
a lot,
speak to you
guys.
next week.
Take care. Bye.